we're going to look at Christ being sufficient for the season that we are presently in. So Christ's sufficiency in our present season and our present moment. But before we get serious, we'll take a little trip down memory lane. Many of you know my husband, Brian. When we went on our very first date, so I was 18 years old. I have a child older than that now. Those of you who you know how this aging thing goes. It's wild. Like I was just 18 and now I have a kid that's 19. The math doesn't work. But anyway, we went on our very first date. I didn't really know this guy. We had mutual friends, so we ended up going on this date. And it wasn't long into this date where I thought to myself, this might be the funniest human I've ever met. And I came to that conclusion because everything he said, I laughed at. Like I was a middle school girl, and I just couldn't stop laughing. And I was like saying to myself, get it together. You're acting like a middle school girl. I remember consciously thinking that. Like, this guy's going to think, oh, chill it out, girl. But I really thought he was maybe the most hilarious human I'd ever met. And whatever, 28 years later, still laughing. And if you go to church with us, I probably laugh the hardest and longest at anything funny he says, still to this day. So at our house, we love to laugh. My mother-in-law, if you know her, she maybe loves to laugh more than any human I know. And I think that's where my husband gets this love of joyfulness and his little bit of comedy. But we love to laugh, and we love a good comedian. Nate Bargatze is probably my husband's favorite. It's a family favorite for sure. But I think my favorite is Leanne Morgan. Anyone familiar with Leanne Morgan?
Yes.
So Leanne Morgan is a comedian. She is from East Tennessee.
Yes.
Woo! East Tennessee mamas. And Leanne Morgan is from a small town near where my husband grew up. She's actually friends with my mother-in-law from back in the day. And she is probably in her late 50s, early 60s. And she talks about life and motherhood, menopause, and all these hysterical things. And it's very real life. And so, but a couple years ago, I heard part of one of her comedy sets, and I thought we probably all could relate to this, no matter what season we're in. And this is what she said. She was talking about Christmas coming up, and that she had some trip that she was looking forward to in the spring, but that she couldn't even think about that trip yet because of Christmas. And this is what she said. I can't even think about going on one of these trips until I get through Christmas. And I don't mean to sound like everything falls on me, but everything falls on me. She said, I love my family, but they don't do anything to help me. Talking about Christmas. She said, I do all the decorating, the cooking, the cleaning, the wrapping, the shopping. And last year, she said, on December 24th, my husband looked at me and said, is there anything I can do to help you? And she said, I said to him, I'm going to beat you to death. And she went on to say, I can't even think about this trip because I got to get ready for Christmas. And I get so torn up about it that I want to take to the bed. That is a Southern saying, if you've never heard it. She said, I want to take to the bed. She said, but I can't take to the bed because if I take to the bed, nobody's going to have Christmas. And so I thought, we can relate to this, that everything falls on me. No matter what season you're in, as women, it can feel like everything falls on me. If you're single, if you're divorced, if you're widowed, if you're in your 20s or 40s or 70s, as women, we can feel that way. We can even believe that lie or that temptation can exist, that no matter what is going on, I am responsible to make sure everything keeps going. I have to have enough inside of me to keep all of this going. But the good news is, for all of us, no matter what season that you are in, there is a shepherd that is all sufficient and everything doesn't fall. So, I want us to begin by each one of you thinking about the season that you are in right now. What season of life are you in? So in other words, what do your days look like? Okay. What do your mornings look like? Your afternoons, your evenings? What are your days filled with? Maybe work is a big part of that, or maybe you are in ministry. Maybe you've got a house full of young kids, which is both work and ministry. Or you've got a house full of teenagers, which is also both work and ministry, which is kind of life in general. Life, work, and ministry is kind of what life looks like, I think, in general. Maybe you're an empty nester. You're kind of trying to figure out what that looks like. Or you're caring for aging parents. Maybe you're aging yourself and you're trying to figure out what this new rhythm of life looks like as you age. But picture what a day looks like for you right now in this season. What joys are a part of this season of your life? What challenges are a part of this season of life? What gives you that heavy feeling in the pit of your stomach in this season of life? Now, I want you to imagine, we go home tonight, tomorrow you go to church, Monday morning you wake up, and you're still in the exact same season of life. You have the same daily rhythms. Everything is the same except you've been given 10 gifts. Now, when my kids turned 10, they got 10 gifts. If you have a bunch of kids, you know this. Don't start something with your first kid that you don't want to keep doing for every other kid. But for some reason you did this, and that's the only birthday, and now I've gotten through all 4 of mine. But we gave 10 gifts on their 10th birthday. So imagine, you're not 10, but imagine you're given 10 gifts on Monday morning when you wake up. And these are the 10 gifts that you are given. Contentment. Rest. Strength. Courage. Protection. Comfort. Provision. Honor. And companionship. You're still a stay-at-home mom. You're still a working mom or a single woman. You're still going through menopause, perimenopause. You're still caring for your aging parents, but now you have contentment. You know you don't need anything else. Everything you have, you need. Now you have true rest. Now you have strength for each and every single day. Now you have guidance for the decisions that are in front of you. Now you have courage to face whatever this season holds. Now you have protection from the storms of this season. Now you have comfort when this season breaks your heart. Because it will. Now you have provision. You know you will be taken care of. You even have honor. You know your life has value in this season. You have nothing to prove to anyone. And now you have companionship. You are not alone. How would this season feel different if those gifts were given to you? Because those gifts have been given to you. And we see that in Psalm 23. This psalm, Psalm 23, is very familiar to some of us. It was written by David, who himself was actually a shepherd. Kind of great that this is the imagery he uses. But David had many varied seasons in his life, if you know his story. And in those different seasons, he experienced trauma, he experienced disappointment, betrayal, incredible success and honor, really public moral failure, really a terrible loss. He experienced forgiveness and restoration and so much more to his story. And so I feel like he is just the person to tell us about our all-sufficient shepherd. Because it's in this shepherd that we find all 10 of these gifts. Everything you need in this season of life, you find in your shepherd. And so y'all have hung out with me in teaching stuff before. I love to have like a main idea that we kind of wrap our heads around for the day. So our main idea is that my shepherd is sufficient for my season. My shepherd is sufficient for my season. And those 10 things that the shepherd gives us in every season we went through, I'll read them off real quick one more time. Contentment, see that in verse 1. Rest, it's in verse 2. Strength, that's in verse 3. Also guidance is in verse 3. The fifth one is courage, that's in verse 4. Protection, verse 4. Comfort, verse 4. Provision, in verse 5. Honor, in verse 5. And companionship. We're going to go through all this if you can get them all down. So I want us to begin by reading Psalm 23. And I like to read sometimes in a different translation than I'm used to reading it in. It helps kind of me see it with fresh eyes. So I'm going to read it to us out of the easy to read version. Love me some easy to read version. If you have kids, it's actually a really helpful translation. But this is what it says. The Lord is my shepherd. I will always have everything I need. He gives me green pastures to lie in. He leads me by calm pools of water. He restores my strength. He leads me on the right paths to show that He is good. Even though I walk through a valley as dark as the grave, I will not be afraid of any danger, because You are with me. Your rod and staff comfort me. You prepared a meal for me in front of my enemies. You welcomed me as an honored guest. My cup is full and it's spilling over. Your goodness and mercy will be with me all my life. And I will live in the Lord's house a long, long time. Let's start with number 1, contentment. The Lord is my shepherd. I will always have everything I need. Other translations say, I lack nothing. How many of us really believe that we lack nothing? I mean, I struggle to believe that I lack nothing, that I will always have everything I need. Like when I face a new crisis, when you face a new crisis, do you believe your shepherd will provide all that you need? It's this idea of contentment. It's not really something our society encourages in us as women. That we should want more. I mean, more stuff, it does encourage that, but also more than just stuff. More friends, more money, more vacations, a more youthful body or a more fit body, more success, more recognition, more, whatever that more is in your mind. But you actually don't need any more. What if you woke up Monday morning believing that all that you needed your shepherd has already provided? I love the lyrics of the old hymn, Great is Thy Faithfulness. Morning by morning, Your mercies I see. All I have needed, Thy hand hath provided. Great is Thy faithfulness to me. So that's contentment. Second gift is rest. In verse 2, it says, He gives me green pastures to lie in. He leads me by calm pools of water. I love that the Message says, true to Your word, You let me catch my breath. That's what rest feels like, isn't it? No matter what season you're in, the temptation exists to keep pushing. Keep pushing because everything falls on you. But your good shepherd provides you with a place of rest. The rest our shepherd offers us isn't like a day at the spa, that sounds nice, or a day in bed flipping through Facebook, or whatever the thing is that's like your go-to escape. That's not the rest the shepherd offers. He offers us deep rest for our soul. And I love the imagery he uses because, nature actually changes what's happening at a cellular level in our bodies. There's all this science of grounding, kind of a grounding pad I sit on. But really, you could just go outside in nature and walk in a green field and sit beside a stream. And that actually changes what's happening in your body. And that's the kind of restorative rest that the shepherd offers us. That and so much more. I mean, us not literally sitting beside a stream or in a field, though that might be a great idea for some of us. But the rest that he gives us, that restorative rest, it can happen in the middle of the chaos of your life. You don't have to be completely away in some quiet place, because some of you, that means you would never rest. I remember when my 2 oldest were little, and I was so overwhelmed by all of the needs these tiny little babies needed from me every single moment. And I remember putting on this worship song, I Need You, Jesus, to come to my rescue. And I played it over and over again because I needed to find rest in the middle of the chaos. And our Good Shepherd offers us that kind of rest. And I think some of us don't experience this rest because we don't follow his lead. This says he leads us there. We don't allow for silence or solitude. We don't allow our souls to really get quiet so we can rest in him. We don't drink from his word, the living water. We don't sit in his presence, Jesus himself, who is the living water. And because we don't follow his lead, we forfeit the rest that he offers us, which is the thing that we so desperately need. That's why we're here. We need rest. So most of you have said. But Christ can offer us that rest in the season of life that you're in. Your all-sufficient shepherd offers you the rest your soul really needs. Number 3, we see that he offers us strength in verse 3. He restores my strength, it says. And this brings to mind the words of Isaiah 40. And it says, do you not know, have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the whole earth. He never becomes faint or weary. There is no limit to his understanding. He gives strength to the faint and strengthens the powerless. Youths may become faint and weary, and young men stumble and fall, but those who trust in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not be weary. They will walk and not faint. I love this, that trusting in the Lord, trusting our all-sufficient shepherd, that's how our strength is renewed. Our strength is renewed as we trust him. I think all of you know this. You will run yourself ragged, trusting in your own sufficiency. And maybe that's where some of you are right now. Exhausted because you're trusting in your own strength and your own sufficiency. And the reality is none of us are enough for our current season. None of you are sufficient. But that's good news because we have an everlasting God who never grows tired, is never weary. And as we trust in him, we find strength in him. And for some of you, myself included, maybe strength feels like the furthest thing from what you feel right now. But I think we can be encouraged because when we feel weak, we still can experience his strength. In fact, we're promised that his strength is made perfect in our weakness. So some of you know kind of my journey over the last couple of years. I have battled really debilitating fatigue with chronic Lyme. That has changed so much of my life. A physical weakness that I've never experienced in my life. It changes the rhythms of our family, the things I need from my husband, my kids, the things I'm no longer able to do. But I will tell you in all honesty, in the midst of the deepest weariness of my life, a strength has risen up. That is not from me. It is from the Lord. As I trust him, as I recognize my need for his sufficiency, a strength has risen up in me that is not in spite of my weakness, but I really believe because of it. So if you find yourself in a season of weakness, that you are in the perfect spot to experience the strength of your all-sufficient shepherd. Number 4, we can experience his guidance. Verse 3, he leads me on right paths to show that he is good. Now, I don't know about you, but there are certain seasons where you're like, what in the heck am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do in this situation? Do I go back to school or not? Do I date this person? Do I not? Do I homeschool my kids or send them to public school or private school? I don't know. There are so many decisions where we think, what in the world am I supposed to do? Your shepherd is sufficient. Look to him. Ask him to guide you, and he will. Through his spirit, through his word, and through his people. Your shepherd will provide guidance Through his Spirit, as you sit with him in prayer, listening to him, talking to him as we did last night. Through his word, as you sit in his word and saturate your life with it, and through his people. I can say in some of the most challenging seasons of my life, it was other godly women that provided me with the guidance that I needed. God spoke through those women. And maybe that's one of the ways God wants to speak to you this weekend, is through the gift of other women. For me, it was often older women, a few steps ahead of me, that just helped me realize I was going to make it, helped me know how to become a good mother, helped me see what hospitality looked like. The Lord guided me through his presence and his Spirit, through his word, and so often through his people. So listen to the shepherd, and he will provide guidance. Number 5, courage. That's in verse 4. Even if I walk through a valley as dark as the grave, I will not be afraid of any danger because you are with me. Some of you know this. There are seasons that are dark as the grave. And some of you have walked those seasons, and some of you are maybe in that season right now. And the only way to keep going through the valleys that are dark as the grave, or as some say, the valley of the shadow of death. The only way to keep going is to know your shepherd is right beside you. I know for some of you, this season is really scary. It's really scary. But you don't have to be held captive by fear in this season, because your shepherd is right beside you. Imagine Monday you woke up knowing your shepherd is right beside you. You have no need to fear. Shared this with some of you before, but a couple years ago, the first time our church did like a week-long prayer thing where we prayed 24 hours a day, you signed up for an hour slot. There was different stations. It was awesome. I'd never done anything like that, so I show up, and the first time I did it, I was like, cool, I'm painting, and I'm doing all this different stuff. I did all the stations, great. Well, then there was another slot that opened up, and I felt like as a pastor's wife, I should probably do another slot. I really did it out of obligation, not out of desire. And I showed up, and I had a bad attitude. I was like, I already did this. Sorry, Mama.
I get it.
And I was like, I wasn't feeling it. And I just said to God, I'm not doing all these stations. If you want to say something to me, here I am. And I laid on the floor. And I hit play on whatever mix of worship songs. And this song I'd never heard came on. It's actually that song, Gratitude. Just saying. And I just laid there. And God was so awesome because I had no expectation, but he obviously did. And this isn't usually the way God works with me, but this is what happened. I laid there, and all of a sudden God brought to mind some of the darkest moments of my life. I was kind of like looking down at me. Little me, and hard things. Adult me, hard, shameful things. I went through all of these dark valleys. And then God took me back. And then I was looking down, but then I saw he was with me. Jesus was right there with me in this circumstance, and this circumstance, and this circumstance. And there were 2 words that kept echoing through my soul. He's like, never alone. Never alone. Laura, you were never alone. Sort of what we did last night, inviting our good shepherd into our grief, into the dark valleys. That's how we can walk through our present dark valleys, is knowing we are never alone. Our shepherd is right beside us, and that gives us courage that we could never conjure up on our own. Number 6 and 7, we're just going to put together their protection and comfort, and those are together in verse 4. The New Living says, your rod and your staff protect and comfort me. This rod that's being described, it's the image of a shepherd. So we picture this shepherd's crook that's they use to pull the sheep back when they're like going somewhere that they shouldn't go. Pull them back away from danger. But that word rod in the original language, it's also used to describe a scepter that shows power and authority. And the staff, that word, is a stick that someone would lean on for strength. So it is the authority and the strength of our good shepherd that provides us with protection and comfort. We can trust that he knows best, that he's in control of the universe, he has all authority, and when we get off track, he's got his little shepherd's hook, and he's going to pull us back. There is comfort in that. I mean, think about those of you that have kids. Like, they feel comfort when they know an adult is in charge. There is a sense of safety and protection when they don't have to keep themselves safe and figure it all out. And I think some of us need to be reminded there's an adult in charge. Especially those that still don't feel like we're adults. What age do I start feeling like an adult? With my kids, I'm like, maybe an adult should be. I'm not adult. Like in life, that's what we need to remember. There's an adult in charge. It doesn't all fall on us. If you get off track, you can trust your shepherd. Give you a little nudge or a tap or a yank back with the hook like you sometimes need. If you're in danger, he will provide protection by bringing you back to safety. It's not on you to keep yourself safe, to chart your own course. That's the job of the shepherd. And I think there is deep comfort in that. Number 8 is provision, and that's in verse 5. It says, you prepared a meal or a table for me in front of my enemies. Now, this word for meal or table in the original language means a feast or a royal banquet. So your shepherd's not just providing scraps for you, like you're just getting the leftovers. He is providing in abundance. And I'm not talking about some health and wealth gospel where like God just wants you to be rich and healthy. Maybe he will make you rich and healthy. Awesome. Use it for the glory of God. But what this is a picture of us sitting down to a feast we didn't cook, at a table we didn't prepare. I mean, that's how I felt up here. I didn't have to cook this delicious meal last night. It was like so awesome. We are being fed and filled with something we could not provide for ourselves. That is this banquet laid out for us. As women, we cannot provide all that we or anyone else needs in and of ourselves. We just can't. We have to look to him. Our physical needs in this season are provided by him. Our emotional needs in this season are provided by him. Even our relational needs, we experience his provision. And I love that it says this feast happens in the presence of my enemies. Now, yes, this may mean that all the world gets to see God's provision in your life, which is true, and that's a beautiful thing that glorifies him. But I've also heard it explained that it's these enemies that are now seated at the banquet, which means he makes enemies into friends. The relational provision you need to bring peace to the most difficult relationships in your life is found in him. There are perceived enemies that we on our own could not bring to the banquet table and experience peace with. That only comes from the Lord. The forgiveness that we need towards our perceived enemies only can come from the Lord. That is supernatural. We need our all-sufficient shepherd to provide that. You just can't find this type of relational capacity in yourself. It's only found in your all-sufficient shepherd. Number 9 is honor. That's in verse 5b. You welcomed me as an honored guest. My cup is full and spilling over. Now, I'm not sure about you, but many seasons of our lives as women do not feel very full of honor. They feel very ordinary and unseen. And you got poop like coming down your clothes, spit up going down your bra. Oh, I remember, oh my goodness. Most of the things as women we do are unseen and uncelebrated and unappreciated. But we are not unseen and uncelebrated and unappreciated by our shepherd. It says we are welcomed as honored guests. I think the value and honor that some of you are looking for, that maybe you've spent your life looking for in all the wrong places, can only be found in your good shepherd. The value you're longing for, no other person is going to give you. You will not find in the look or shape of your body, in your appearance, in your accomplishments, and how amazing of a mom you are, or wife you are, or teacher, or whatever you do. The honor that is deeply satisfying and fulfilling only comes from our good shepherd. Because it's deep soul honor that we find because we have just been welcomed to the table. Our cups overflow when we experience the love and honor poured out from our shepherd. It's actually how we can love and honor others because we ourselves have experienced the love and honor of our good shepherd. For some of us, maybe that would transform how we parent, how we love our husbands, because we are not looking for honor and validation from these relationships. We experience it from our good shepherd, which allows us to pour it out generously, not expecting this reciprocal relationship. Wonder if Monday you realized you had a seat of honor at the table. How would that transform the relationships that you're in and your ability to love the people that God has placed in your life? Finally, number 10, this final gift that we are given is companionship. That's in verse 6. And I love how the Christian Standard Version translates verse 6. Only goodness and faithful love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord as long as I live. I sang this song last night, CeCe Winans' song, The Goodness of God. Every time I hear that, like, the Lord's just there with me. It's so beautiful. Part of it, she says, I love your voice. You have led me through the fire. In darkest nights, you are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. And I have lived in the goodness of God. Our good shepherd, even greater than all of these other gifts, the gift he provides for us is his presence. He offers us himself. All these other gifts are found in him, in the gift of himself. His goodness, his love, his strength, all of these things are found because he is with us, as verse 5 talked about. And so if we are in Christ, if we know him as our Savior, we will dwell in his presence forever. So both here on this earth, through his Spirit, and then for eternity. And that's why we have no reason to fear, as verse 5 said, because he's with us. I think for many of us, the companionship and friendship of Christ is something we don't realize the true depth of. James 2:23 says, and the scripture was fulfilled that says, Abraham believed God and it was credited to him as righteousness, and he was called God's friend. Jesus says in John 15:15, I no longer call you servants because a servant doesn't know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends. For everything I learned from my Father, I have made known to you. Do you realize that in your day-to-day life? In this season, in the rhythms that you are currently in, that you have a constant friend with you. I think if we're honest, a lot of seasons that we can be in as women are very isolated. They're very lonely. We can put on a good show on social media or whatever, but there are seasons that are really lonely. Whether you're single, or you're married, or you're divorced, or you're widowed, maybe that marriage just feels like a lonely place. or the lack of having a partner feels like a lonely space. Maybe you raised your kids, now they're out of the house and that's just too quiet. Or maybe your spouse doesn't know Jesus and there is just a loneliness there. Our shepherd offers us his friendship, his companionship, and his presence. It says all the days of our lives. Contentment, rest, strength, guidance, courage, protection, comfort, provision, honor, companionship. That's what your all-sufficient shepherd offers you. Your shepherd is sufficient for your season. My shepherd is sufficient for my season. So I want us to close with imagining your day on Monday again. Same season, same rhythm, but now you see all of the gifts that your all-sufficient shepherd has given to you. Your life will not be different on Monday, but you can be different on Monday, realizing all that you find in your shepherd. Some of you are familiar with her, but Elizabeth Elliot, a saint that has gone before us. If you haven't ever read anything of hers, her teachings and her life have really shaped a lot of my views on God. But she lived many of the same seasons as we live. She was single and struggled with that. Wrote a book on it a zillion years ago. She was married. She was a mother. She was a single mother. She was a widow. She battled incredible hardship and discouragement, even dementia in her final years. But these words of hers I read decades ago, and they never left me. And this is what she said. The secret is Christ in me, not me in a different set of circumstances. The secret is Christ in me, not me in a different set of circumstances. You don't need different circumstances. You don't need to get to that next season of your life, and then you'll be okay, and then you'll find joy, and then you'll find strength, and then you'll be able to serve, and then you'll be able to experience his presence and his love, if only. No. The secret is Christ in you, not you in a different set of circumstances. So our prayers for us is that we would really believe that all of these gifts have been provided for us in the Good Shepherd. To believe those, trust those, and really experience the reality of those in this season of our lives. Let's pray. The Good Shepherd, we are not enough. We try to act like we are sometimes, but we are often just not far from us, that we are just not sufficient for the task at hand. But you are more than enough. You offer us yourself and all of these incredible gifts that transform how we walk in the season that we were in. So help us to believe these gifts, help us to receive them and experience them in real ways in this current season. So Lord, would you help us? We can't believe or trust or experience any of this without your help. So we just cry out, help us to know and experience and trust your presence and all that you offer us in yourself. Lord, would you help us?